Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Asherz and this is
Tobias.
Tobias. You've had a lot going on since the last time we saw you. How have you been?
Oh boy. I've been all right. Now I feel like I don't have enough to talk about because you just talked it up. Like I should have all this exciting news and I'm drawing a total blank. Um,
Well, you went to
and
that Dead of Winter.
I did. Yeah, no, that was fun. Well, I shouldn't say it was super fun because I actually went by myself and I don't want Emily to get upset that I
Oh,
had
so you
all
had a
this fun
horrible
without her.
time.
Yo, it was just the worst. I couldn't even sleep. I was so distraught. No, no, it was a good time. It's one of those Troy Taylor events down in Alton, Illinois, and if you ever get a chance, he does a lot of dinners and stuff too. And he's got his ghost tour and everything. But as far as conferences are concerned, he's got two. He's got Dead of Winter every February, and that benefits the local food pantry. So that's nice. It's like a nice charity thing you
Yeah.
can do. Um, and then there is Haunted America, and that's usually in June. I think it's been in July sometimes, but usually June, sometime in the summer. And that's like the big one. I'll be there too, but of course Emily will actually be with me for that one. And so that'll be exciting. But yeah, Dead of Winter, it's a lot of fun. I go almost every year. I've gone like the past few years, and it's a very chill kind of experience. They usually get some decent speakers. If you count me as a decent speaker, like that's the bar.
I
So
mean,
I
I'm just
know, right? But yeah, it's a good crowd, and that's the thing I appreciate about it the most is it's always a good crowd. I have never been to another conference outside of either of those, like either of the Alton conferences that have, or I should say, that attract an audience that is as interested and engaged in the subject matter as you get down there. It's a lot of really open-minded people. They love to read, so if you are an author, you always do really well, which of course is great for me. But yeah, it's always a blast. So yeah, I went down there last weekend, or not last weekend, the weekend before, and yeah, it was great. It was a little weird being by myself, but I got over it. I had a king bed in the hotel room to myself with
ooh.
no dogs in it or anything, so I probably slept better there than I did at home. Um, and yeah, it was a good time. I talked a little Mothman, actually. I gave my like Lake Michigan Mothman presentation, and so I just talk about different cases that I have investigated personally, where I've had good contact with the actual witness, and so I find them to be credible, at least in terms of the authenticity of the person's experience. And by that, I mean they're relating their experience in a way that is authentic. They're not lying about it, they're not making anything up. This is really their perception of what happened to them. And so I always find those very compelling.
Yeah, that is it. It is a good presentation, I'll tell you. I only know of one that's better, and that's mine. But
Well,
I'm just
that's
kidding.
fair.
No, I was really excited to finally watch a presentation because of what's his name, Ryan Sprague's virtual thing that he does, his virtual con. Um,
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah.
because even though you were at Frogman, I was busy, so I
Right.
couldn't sit in on it like I wanted to. But it was, I mean, when you came to Frogman, we had that discussion. Well, are we both talking about Mothman? Like, what's happening here? And I thought that it was really valuable to have you come to that area and talk about Lake Michigan Mothman.
Sure.
Whereas mine is just more of a, this is the generic history. I touch on it a little bit, but just because it's like a timeline based.
Right.
But it is a good talk. Did you get any Mothman witnesses? Anything like
No,
that?
no. Well, yeah, I don't usually at conferences and things, and I think that's partially because there just aren't that many of them, really.
Yeah.
It's a relatively rare phenomenon to be reported. But you know, like people always come up and talk about their different weird experiences, and so you'll get people. Usually at Troy's stuff, it's going to be people who are more into hauntings and things. So you'll get
Yeah.
a lot of like ghost experiences and stuff like that, and that's always really interesting to me too. You know, and I've got a couple different presentations that I like to do, and I'm always thinking about new ones. But I thought I might roll with my Lake Michigan Mothman presentation for this year. I did it last year at a few places, and I may just roll with it this year because I'm looking at my actual event schedule, and I'm not at anywhere this year where I gave a presentation last year. So so it would be all new
Yes.
audiences, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, I have another presentation that I like to do a lot. I mean, I've got several, but it's it's on nighttime visitation. And I mentioned this specifically because it led to the best fucking thing that's ever happened at any presentation that I've ever done. And it was at Haunted America, oh God, 2 years ago, probably. Well, 2021, I think. And I was given this presentation, and it's on nighttime visitation. So I'm talking about all of these different cases that I have personally investigated. So again, witnesses that I've worked with closely and interviewed and all this stuff, and and comparing them. And so I've got alien abductees. I've got you know, people who grew up in haunted houses, and you know, UFO witnesses, and all of this stuff, and sort of comparing their experiences of being visited at night. You know, usually around bedtime or in bed or whatever. And it gets really fucking weird. Like it gets really weird because there's no way around it. And I think it challenges a lot of people's preconceptions, you know, because they like to put these phenomena in their little boxes, right? And you know, they don't want to get any chocolate in their peanut butter. And so, you know, you get people who are like, well, you know, I don't want to talk about ghosts in the context of like the experiences of alien abductees. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. And so I'm given this talk, right? And and my my buddy Adam Benedict is sitting all the way in the back. You know, he's in like the
Wow.
last row by by the door. And I didn't notice this at the time because you know, you kind of tune the audience out a little bit when you're giving your presentation because you don't want to get distracted. And and so I didn't see this happen, but I guess there was this lady sitting next to him. And at one point in the presentation, she just like stands up and announces to everybody around her. She stands up and goes, "I don't understand any of this. I can't be here."
Oh.
It just like storms out. And he told me that, and I was like, dude, I should just retire immediately. Like, I'm never going to do any better than this. I have peaked, you know, to elicit that kind of reaction from somebody. That's as good as it gets.
Wow. That's it. But you didn't catch her saying it?
No, I
Yeah.
wish it
Oh.
probably would have fucked me up, and then I would have, you know, I would have lost my place or something.
I probably would have. I honestly, I probably would have laughed hysterically. I get kind of unhinged on the stage
Right.
sometimes. Um, yelled something smart assy. I don't know what I would have yelled, but you
I
know,
mean, she wasn't like a heckler. I don't think. I think she
she was
had some.
overwhelmed.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
just something. Some wires got crossed in her brain, and there was a short circuit, and that was it. That was it for her.
She's like, I won't sit here and have these people badmouth nighttime visitors. I
I
don't know.
Yeah, I
That's
felt like I was very charitable.
that's
Really.
that's very interesting. Wow, that is something else. Ooh, that is pretty top tier. Yeah, I agree. You just don't like you don't look at the audience. You just don't. That's like the one thing you don't do.
Right. No, you try to look like a foot or two above their heads, and from their perspective, it'll look like you're looking them right in the eye.
Yeah.
So yeah, and anybody who's ever been in an audience and you think that the speaker is looking at you, they're not.
No, I have no fucking idea that you exist at all.
Mm-mm.
Even when they're asking questions, I'm still like generally looking in their direction, but not looking right at them.
Right.
And that's probably rude. But the worst is like when you can see the door. I don't want to look at the door either.
Right.
Just in case who all's leaving. Um, Man, well, it sounds like it was a good time though.
Oh yeah, no, it was great. It was
At
great.
this one. Anything else happened since then?
Oh boy. Oh, have you watched the Rael documentary yet?
No.
Oh man, the UFO sex cult.
Oh man, I love a UFO cult, and I love a sex cult. Both of these things together?
Right? Yes. It is. I thought it was pretty. It was pretty entertaining. Now, full disclosure, it's in French, and the only version that I saw on Netflix was dubbed. So, I originally had wished that they would have just had it in French with subtitles, but it's dubbed. So whatever. It just is what it is. I
Okay.
thought it was still really entertaining for that. But it's great. Like now, because I've been keeping an eye on Rael. I think everybody in ufology has probably been aware of Rael since at least like I don't know the late '90s or early 2000s, right? Because they were making national news with the whole cloning nonsense back in what like 2000, early 2000s. But they, like they were known prior to that as just like these weird hippie UFO, weirdos and yeah, it gets real weird. And the guy behind it, the guy who claims to be Rael, so this is a guy who claims to be in contact with the Elohim, who are just it's basic cosmic space brothers shit. It's nothing you haven't heard before. And he basically started this cult just to bang chicks, seriously. And it fucking worked. Like it worked awesome for this guy. And I can't condone that, but he got really good results. So, I mean, shit, I guess he's doing something right. But
He must be doing it right. Yeah, my newbie self, I've never heard of this before. This is brand new
really,
to me. Yeah, I've never heard
wow,
it.
yeah,
One thing I think people forget or really don't know about me is that I didn't get into ufology until I started doing all this, and that's only been about 4 years. So I still have lots to learn, apparently, and apparently I need to go learn about this cult, potentially start my own. Um,
maybe,
if he's
maybe. And
getting results, I mean,
before anybody comes at me, because I did say that he started this cult to bang hot chicks. Okay, now could I have phrased that differently? Could I have said he started the cult to manipulate women and take advantage of them? Yes, because that's really what
that
he's
is what
doing.
he's doing. Yeah,
But this is, it's a humorous podcast. So sometimes we just,
we gotta have fun with it. But like,
right.
this might get you in trouble. Are they hot chicks or are they just chicks?
Oh, see, that's the loaded question.
All right, all right.
All women are beautiful, Asherz.
There you go. Good answer.
Right.
Perfect answer. I'll watch it and I'll come back next week. I'll tell you guys if they're hot chicks or not. No,
That's fair.
that sounds pretty interesting. I'll definitely have to check that out. Like I said, I love UFO cults. I love sex cults. Both of those things together, I'm in. Like, sign me up. Like,
Right. No, it's yeah, it really is something else. But yeah, no, check it out. I want to hear what you think about it. It's entertaining. Everybody listening should check it out. It's on Netflix, so if you're already overpaying for that streaming service, you might as well get something out of it and watch Rael.
see, that's the problem is that I don't pay for Netflix. And so
That's
I
not a
still,
problem.
well, it can be because I want to watch stuff on it. So, like, I steal my mom's Netflix,
Oh, okay.
and every once in a while, I can still log in and it'll let me watch something. And then,
Uh-huh.
like, if I leave and like come back the next day, it'll be like, looks like you're not subscribed. So I can kind of like, I don't know, somehow I can break in to Netflix sometimes. So the
Oh,
next time I'm
weird.
able to, that's what I'm doing.
Nice. Yeah, I think they changed that relatively recently, right? Where you used to be able to share it, but they really cracked down.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
sometime last year. It was like the middle of last year they
Okay.
did it. Yeah. And yeah, right when I got all my fucking teeth pulled is when they did it, of course.
Oh, of course.
When there was nothing else for me to do but watch stuff. So
Right. That was planned, I think.
it was, yeah, they did it just that's when we found out the news. I was like a week before and I was at my dentist appointment. My mom's like, "Oh, did you see this? You're not going to be able to use my Netflix anymore." And I'm
Right.
like, "Well, at least I can still use your Discovery Plus." I can see if they found Bigfoot or not yet. And they didn't. So
No, they didn't.
still.
They never will now. The show's been canceled for how long?
Has it been? I didn't even. That's how much I don't know about these shows.
I don't even know what sure, like, I'm not sure which show you were referring to, but if it was Finding Bigfoot, that's been off the air for a while, I think, right? I also don't watch
Hmm,
paranormal TV most of the time, so
maybe
I
it
guess I
has
don't really
been. Yeah,
know.
no, I have no idea. I know that they're like always like at like the big events. Like they're always there, and it's like even if they're not like
Yeah.
there, fucking Wild Bill shows up to all the conferences, and I'll say the show's ridiculous, and Wild Bill himself is ridiculous, but I respect the hell of the guy just showing up at all these conferences all the time,
Sure.
because nobody's going to tell him no. It's Wild Bill from Finding Bigfoot.
No, yeah, like that show doesn't have to be on the air for them to write it for the rest of their lives,
That's
like
which is like
fuck,
20
like
years at best.
yeah, well, I mean, look at like people who've been in, fucking Star Trek or any of those franchises, right? Like Finding Bigfoot has been hugely influential in like like in the Bigfoot community, right?
True.
So, I mean, yeah, it doesn't have like Star Trek's mass mainstream appeal, but I would argue within that specific sphere, like that localized community, it's a big enough deal where you can just have been on Finding Bigfoot, and that's the only thing you're going to need to do to get invited to stuff forever.
That's true. That's fair enough. That does make sense. Yeah, I don't know. It's anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna check that out for sure. Did you have anything else, or I have the perfect segue? If you did not,
No, well, I want to hear the perfect segue now.
this is the perfect segue. So what I've been doing, I fucked up and I started a new video game, and I admit that I have a problem, right? I'm addicted to video games. It happens. Mostly when I start a new one, right? It's the only thing that I can do. I literally cannot do anything else. I have to play my video game. I don't care that the dishes need done. I don't care that I haven't eaten all day long. I'm going to play my video game.
You got to do what you got to do. You're making the right choice.
It wears off, right? Within like the first 2 weeks, it wears off. And then I struggle to finish said video game, right? I'll play the shit out of it. And then I'm like, oh, I've done too much of this. And then I put it down. So anyway, I started a new video game. And let me tell you, it is precious. I'm in love with it. It's called Cult of the Lamb. Have you heard of this?
Hmm.
This is
No, I don't
ridiculous.
play video games,
That's right. You don't.
unfortunately.
You don't.
Yeah.
Emily does. I don't know, but she's like a casual. She's like a very casual gamer. She might.
She's a cozy gamer. Is
Yeah.
that's what they're called. She plays a lot
Totally.
of the like Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley kind of stuff. She just wants to quietly tend her fucking beets or whatever.
Yeah. She wants to garden virtually and in real life.
Seriously,
Um,
that's basically it.
that sort of thing. So Cult of the Lamb is super interesting. So you start off as a lamb that is sacrificed to stop the coming of a specific spirit or something. And instead of them successfully sacrificing you and getting what they want, this entity then decides to use you as a pawn and says that he will bring you back to life. You're going to go back on I'm assuming Earth. They don't really clarify, but you're going to go back to life and start a cult. And you do. And
Nice.
you are a cult leader where you are recruiting other animals, cutesy animals, into your cult. There's some like fighting elements to it. It's not like a huge deal, but like most of it is like tending to your cult and like tending to your land that you have. And so it's like a satanic cozy game basically.
Okay.
And I'm having a great time. It's been a lot of fun. And my daughter, so it sucks for my addiction because I played on my Switch, and I like the Switch because like 99% of the time, even though I can play it on my TV, I play it handheld, right?
Right.
Usually while I also watch something or listen to
Oh yeah.
something, or, you
That's what
know,
Emily does.
right. And, so it's bad because my daughter's like interested in the game, but she doesn't want to play it. She's like intimidated by playing it. So she wants to watch me play it. So now, like, I'm like, look, I got to put this down. I got to go get stuff done. And she'll be like, oh, and then I'm like, okay, another 3 hours won't hurt. Let's do this.
Right.
And so, but it's been a bonding experience for us. We're having family time while playing this Cult of the Lamb game, and
Well, that's nice.
she's
That's
she's
wholesome.
enjoying it. Is. It's really wholesome. It's really nice.
What so what kind of cult stuff do you get up to? Like are we talk like you have a compound? Is there weird sex stuff going on? Like
So apparently there was an update very recently where there is sex stuff going on, but I'm not quite there yet because I just
okay.
started it actually yesterday. So you have a compound, so you go out on crusades, okay, and basically what that is like you are fighting enemies, and while you're fighting enemies you're collecting resources and stuff from said enemies, but while you're out there you'll come across like civilians that you have to save, and you recruit them to your cult. So you go back to,
And then that's saving them.
yeah, you save them by recruiting them to your cult. And so you'll go back, like you'll go on this crusade, right? It's like a typical, like it's a dungeon crawler, and then like at the end of it, you fight the boss and you go back. And when you go back, then you know your people are there. So they have like different stats, kind of like the Sims that you have to pay attention to. So they have their faith, they have hunger, and they have sickness, right?
Uh,
So the faith you have to continue to build. It will like slowly dwindle. And if it does dwindle, you actually have like individual characters that will like approach you and be like, I know all your lies. I'm not falling for your stuff anymore. I'm going to go tell everybody about you. And like you have to like stop them from like converting the other cult members away from you. And so you have to like, instill their faith. You give sermons, you perform
yeah.
rituals.
This is just like real life.
It is. Yeah, it is. And eventually you can like win back over those members, or you can kill them, or they will leave eventually.
Yeah, you gotta
um,
do what you gotta do. Sure.
you got to do what you got to do, and like different things are like you kind of have to be careful. Like there's an opportunity to like murder people. Like right now I can't murder people, but like you could take the opportunity to be able to kill people in the cult, whether it be because they're sick and they become high maintenance, you have to take care of them, or whatever. But if you do that and other members like watch you murder them, then like they're going to be unhappy about that. So like you have to also be
Huh.
careful about how you conduct yourself in front of everybody.
What a pain in
um
the ass, you know? It's like,
right.
oh, I killed somebody in front of the other cult members and now they're being all weird about it. It's like
Well, and
you
like
joined a cult. What did you expect?
they'll die, right? Like, so the characters will die. Either they'll age out because they do age and they'll just die of old age, or, they'll get sick or whatever. And
Yeah.
like, so if you don't take their body, like, if you don't immediately take their body and like prepare it for burial, first of all, or it's around any of the other characters, like they'll get sick and they'll like puke all over it and then you have to clean it up.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
or so you can take the body and you can bury it, right? Or you can cultivate it for meat and feed it to everybody, which probably you lose some faith over.
You can't just like drape some Christmas lights on it and and stick it in its room or something and be like, "Oh no, it's not really dead. Like they're gonna resurrect any day now."
No, unfortunately, no. So, like, I buried the one body, and there's an option to exhume it, and I haven't done that yet. I'm like, what happens if I exhume this body? What's going to happen? Can I cultivate it for meat then? So it's like super old, and then I don't
Oh,
know. It's bad
probably
meat.
shouldn't.
I'm gonna try and see what happens.
Okay.
It's a
You'll
video game.
probably
There's
get
no
sick.
consequences to me,
That's
so
true.
I might as well try it. So it's cutesy, and like I said, they're all animals, and they're cute, and it's all hand drawn, and so it's adorable. So eventually, like as you kind of build your cult up, you can do different things. Like you can set different rules, and so I imagine sex rituals come into it later on once you're able to have that within your cult. So it's really interesting.
It sounds like it. I mean,
Yes.
I'll mention it to Emily because she loves her Switch. She's on that thing all the time.
Yeah.
So I mean, if it's cute animals, she might like it.
Yeah, it's cute animals, and you have a farm, and like you have to, like you put everybody to work, like they have jobs. So like some of them are like chopping down trees to collect lumber, and some of them are like mining rocks, so you can build shit.
Can you
And
control how much people eat? So like
yes,
to deprive them of protein to
yeah.
make them more like malleable, so you can
Well,
control them,
it'll make them
like we do in real
upset.
life in cults.
Kind of, yes. You can pretty much could make them do anything you want to, for the most part. Like they will do it, but if they are starving, they'll bitch and they'll be like, "I'm hungry, I gotta eat." Fucking
What? That's the
I don't know.
opposite of real life cults. Like
Really?
like step one in a cult is love bombing, right? But it's several steps in. It's probably like step 3 or 4. You got to start starving people a little bit. You got to make sure they don't have enough protein and they're not getting enough sleep, and then their brains get all foggy, and then the crazy fucking bullshit you're saying makes a lot more sense.
I imagine that they probably. I know they don't eat good because, like, you have to cook all the food, so they're
Uh,
not eating good. That's for sure. But a couple of the rituals do involve like lavish meals and stuff like that. They can actually get good, like good food. Um, because they did such a good job, so you're going to reward them, right? And then they're like, "Oh, if I do
okay.
good, you're going to reward me." But you have to think of like the consequence. Like they'll sleep at night, and like you can wake them up, and they'll get mad at you, and like so you as a cult leader have some responsibility at play. You have to do it carefully because you're running a
Okay.
cult. So it's like I said, it's been fun. Yeah, definitely mention it to her. I don't know if she'll be into it, but she might.
Right.
It is very it can be very casual. So there is story there, but it is pretty casual. So definitely, anybody else that plays video games, check that out, or maybe you have checked it. It's been out for a while. So
Well, what was it called? Cult of the Lamb?
Cult of the Lamb. Yep.
Okay.
That's that's what it is. So
Now
and
we
then
know.
I wanted to provide an update for the listeners from last week's episode. I know Tobias, you weren't here. Um, Let me tell you what you missed out on real quick. Real quick recap for everybody here. So last week I talked about the crazy happenings in my local town. Okay, about this cow, right? So a cow got loose on the freeway, and I later found out he fell off of a trailer while going to slaughter, and unfortunately they had to shoot the cow
Oh.
because it's super unsafe to have a cow on the freeway, and they couldn't wrangle him and catch him. So they shot the cow, and then they left it on the side of the highway, and even though it's Ohio, we're not really used to having, giant beef cows on the side of the highway.
Well, yeah, those are like 1,000-pound animals.
Right. So it was it was disturbing. But then a local, the Beaver Creek police went and put a tag on it like you would with a vehicle that's abandoned on the highway.
What?
And actually, hold on, and crossed out vehicle and wrote cow. And so this cow had to be towed within 48 hours. And I swear to God, true
Oh,
story.
yeah, you're going to get in trouble.
True story. Well, they know the farmer was there when all this was happening. So he's like, I'm going to come back and, pick it up. They knew who he was. So
Right.
as we're recording the show Monday, they actually do come and pick up the cow. And so it has been removed. But at that point in time, a whole Facebook page was made for this cow.
Uh-huh.
That was going viral. The Dayton 675 cow or something like that. There were T-shirts being sold with the cow's likeness on it with angel wings, like memorial.
Oh, man.
They named the cow Murambe, like Harambe, the Cincinnati gorilla that was shot.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you know
mean,
Harambe. Yeah.
Dick's out for Harambe.
Exactly. Well, now it's udders out for Murambe is what it's
Okay. Yeah,
been.
get them out. Get those udders out. We got to honor this cow.
Um, well, so they picked up the cow, and somebody did go and place a memorial cross that says "R.I.P. Murambe," and so it is now there on 675 between the Wilmington Pike and the Dorothy Lane exit. If you're ever in the area,
I travel through Ohio fairly frequently, at least a couple times a year. So I'll look for it. I really will. The one thing that struck me immediately about that story though is, so this cow is on its way to be slaughtered,
yeah,
right? And it escapes from the truck
yeah,
and it's wandered. So it's like it's tasting freedom at this point. So this is even more tragic than people probably think. Like this cow was so close to making it, like
yep,
managed to get off the truck to escape from being slaughtered, only to be put down by some corpo fascist Nazi
yep,
that just couldn't stand this poor cow being free.
yep. Pretty much.
Unbelievable.
That's the story, and people are. I mean, that was initially. I mean, that was the outrage about it, right? So the fact that the cow was shot and then just left there to rot. People were upset. Like, okay, at least use it at that point, right? At least use the meat.
Yeah.
Well, come to find out, I've learned a lot about cows in the last 2 weeks of my life, and come to find out, I guess when a cow has a lot of excitement like that,
Uh-huh.
the meat is not good. I don't know.
Oh, probably releases a lot of hormones and chemicals and
Right.
shit that sours the meat. Yeah,
Yep.
I can see that.
So you can't eat it anyway. So there really wasn't anything that could be done. But like people were like pulling off the side of the highway to go like take pictures and shit of this cow. Like like they'd never seen a cow before.
Well, they might not have seen a dead cow on the fucking highway before.
And the poor cow. I mean, not to get totally gruesome, but he's like laying on his like back side, and his legs are sticking straight up, and it was just
Oh
horrible.
God.
It's horrible
Yeah.
because he's a big cow. He can't close his legs even in death. They don't close. They don't work that way.
No, yeah, no. If you get a cow on its side, it's they're just sticking out like table legs.
It's just real stiff, and it's like, oh my god, poor guy. And then he sat out there. This happened, I think, on a Thursday or a Friday, and he was out
Uh,
there all weekend. until,
oh God.
until the Monday. But then, like, you have to think of the logistics. Who the fuck can move a big cow like that? Not
I
many
don't
people.
know. That had to smell terrible.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it did. There's no housing or anything like that over there. I mean, again, it's the highway, so it's
Right.
away. But then, like, so this all pretty much started because of my local city Facebook group. I mean, they all really made a big deal about it and spread it around. And like not the very next day, but like that day, somebody made a post and they're like, "Oh my god, what's that smell? What's that horrible smell?" And of course, everybody's like, "Oh, it's the cow." And it's just been they just keep going with it, and I love to see it. I'll be honest, I really do.
Right. I totally get it. There's also nothing to do here.
Yeah,
So if anything at all ever fucking happens, you make as big of a deal out of it as you can.
yeah, they have, and I just think it's so now. Like I'm scrolling on Facebook. You know how Facebook will give you like sponsored posts.
Oh yeah.
So the T-shirts that are being sold are actually going towards a really great cause. So every dime of those T-shirts are going towards our farm sanctuary, which is an animal rescue for guess what, farm animals. And
Oh.
yeah, really fantastic. And they're being sold through a particular T-shirt website. So I'm scrolling through Facebook, and what do I see? That T-shirt website with the big old advertisement with the fucking cow T-shirt. It's front and center.
Nice. Making a difference.
I'm like, is this, are they advertising to other people too? And they don't know what this cow's about? And they're like, oh, that's a cool picture of a cow with wings flying over the highway. That's nice.
Maybe.
They're buying it, you know? But at least they're doing something with it. They're trying to raise funds for something that is charitable and is worth something. It's unfortunate that
Sure.
the cow had to be shot. I agree. I don't like animals dying. But at the end of the day, if somebody would have hit that cow in their car, it would have been all bad. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a vegetarian or anything.
yeah,
I believe in responsible animal husbandry and sustainable farming.
yeah,
And so I try to buy meat and any animal products that I purchase. I try to vet the source to get something as ethically sound as I can. Um, but yeah, there's just something about that story where you've got this animal going to slaughter, and I don't think it was smart. I mean, cows are not that fucking smart. Like they're smarter than like insects and stuff, but they're not geniuses. And so, like they're not dolphins, right?
sure.
They're not even dogs. But anyway, and I love dogs. Anyway, um, so like I don't know that like this cow was actually trying to escape or whatever, but just like the just the sublime tragedy of this animal on the way to slaughter and conceiving of it as this being that like tried to escape, and it was so close, but then it was the cops that shot it, right?
I think so, but under the instruction of the farmer.
Sure, but whatever. So for the purposes of this narrative, you're going to have some like corpo fascist police state Nazis show up to like make sure that this cow can never taste true freedom and just murder it on the spot. Like I'd watch that
Yeah.
movie. I'd cry at the end,
Oh
but
yeah,
I'd watch it.
it'd be powerful. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'd film it in black and white probably.
I hope that we have filmmakers that listen to the show and they take our movie ideas and they do something with them. I really do because they're good. So
Somebody has to, because I don't have any idea how to do any of this stuff. I'm just an idea man, really.
yeah. Well, you could potentially write it. Would you be open to writing one of the films and selling the
Sure.
script? There you go. Um,
Absolutely.
that'll work. Get in a partnership with somebody. Somebody message Tobias and make this movie happen. Um, yeah, it is a hell of a story. I'll tell you that. It was a lot of excitement that happened with the cow. I think that now I love that there is a memorial there for it. I think that's important, and I hope that this cow lives on in everybody's memories forever, since it won't be living on in their digestive systems. So there's that. um,
Wow.
yeah, pretty much. So I don't have conventional news, but I do have some news that I want to talk about. It actually pertains to well, the show kind of. So Monday, you guys got a special treat. The I keep telling you guys, there's all these brand new shows coming over here under the on Wednesdays We Talk Weird umbrella, and the first episode, the first season, has started officially of Beasts and Beyond. And you can go and listen to that right now. It's available. I mean, you probably know about it because you already listened to this show, but tell everybody about it. It's definitely a lot more spearheaded than this show is. This show's the fun show, right? We can talk and we can be personal. This one's, I guess, a little bit more professional sometimes. Um,
No thanks to me.
sometimes, it's got it doesn't have a lot of the banter. It doesn't have the news. It doesn't have the beginning parts. It's just straight to the topic, and those topics are going to be basically case studies on different types of monsters. So it's super exciting. I know what's coming up. The whole season has been recorded, so you can expect to hear that show every Monday. Every Monday it's going to be out. I think I said on social media, Monday had just became Monster Mondays. That's a great tagline for it. So we'll leave it there. It sounds very 80s. Let's keep it there. So there's that.
That is exciting news.
It is exciting news. It is. It's been man, it's been a lot of work. So don't disappoint me. Go listen to it. Listen to this episode and then go listen to that
Right?
episode. Uh,
God damn it. Somebody, you got to go listen to this fucking episode.
just everybody go listen to it. Everyone. I don't care who you are. Just go listen to it. And then share it. Share it with everybody. That's your homework this week. Your homework this week is to share Beast and Beyond with your peers. Share it with your coworkers. Share it with your exes. I don't care. Just share it to people.
Play
Uh,
it for your cult in an endless loop over loudspeakers.
Absolutely. Everybody's got to hear it. It's very important. It's about the fucking Kentucky Goblins. You can't not listen to it anyway. It's a fan favorite. Okay, it's a fan favorite. Even though we covered it, me and Pato covered it on the show. Go listen to me and Jimothy Strange cover it on the other show. Different perspectives are important and do bring something to the table. So there's that, and that's not it, right? This is going to continue. So once this season of Beast and Beyond ends, you get a new show after that, immediately after that. So you get to hear more of me, and apparently you like listening to me talk. I hear so. There's that. And then also, of course, the Frogman Festival is a week and a half away, depending on what day you're listening to this. March 2nd, the Oasis Convention Center. I can't tell you guys enough that you have to be there. Like, it's getting so ridiculous. Now, there's a parade in the morning, okay? There are speakers throughout the whole day. There are people working on costumes and people showing up with fucking puppets will be there. It's going to be crazy fun. And then I'll be there talking about other frogs from around the world. So there's that. It'll be super exciting. But that's really all. I don't have any, like I said, I don't have any conventional news this week. Tobias, you have some news to share?
Oh boy. Yeah, I got something I could share. Now we already talked about, of course, the bright lights reported by those Canadian pilots, but
Yeah.
I've got some winged humanoid news if people want to hear about
Ooh.
that. So this actually came to me from Lon Strickler over at Phantoms and Monsters, and he had received this report from a woman down in Cicero, Illinois. So that's like a suburb of Chicago, right? Um, who said that she saw something huge with demonic wings and a brief flash of bright red color when walking past her son's room one summer evening in 2020. So basically, what happened was her kids were outside playing, and she happened to be walking past her son's room, and she saw this enormous shadow cast by something. And she described it as having demonic wings, but so sort of bat-like. Think like that kind of membranous sort of wing that we associate with demons and such. And like a flash of light, that a red light specifically, that she thought maybe could have been its eyes or something. And so since then they had experienced some strange haunting phenomena as well. So it started with the actual event itself, where one of her son's toys had been knocked down and then replaced mysteriously. So she went and asked them outside if somebody had been inside, or if somebody had messed with one of his toys. Gundams, I guess. Now, I don't collect Gundams, but they're a whole thing. And so he was pretty protective of it. So he raced inside to see if any of his Gundams were out of place. And it had been put back. And so she found that to be very unusual, which I think anybody would, having this toy being displaced only to have it returned by seemingly supernatural means. And then after that, so after this actual event takes place, I guess the boys had been reporting scratching or knocking noises from inside of their walls and things in this bedroom. So definitely a very interesting report. Now, she's been pretty cagey about it, which isn't that unusual. So there's been limited email communication and no over the phone interview or anything yet. So take that for what it's worth. And the other really weird thing about this is that it took place inside. And that's unusual, right? Like, that doesn't happen that often. There's only one other case that I'm aware of where somebody has reported a Mothman like entity inside, and that was a woman that I spoke to here in Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin. In fact, I think it was early 2002. She had an experience where she had seen this red-eyed winged being while driving. If you're familiar with the Madison area, this would have been just off the Beltline by the Seminole Highway exit. And so like the Arboretum and stuff is over there. There are some natural areas. And anyway, so she sees this thing, and then later at home, she is doing laundry in the basement of their apartment building, and she said that she saw the thing down there. She said she saw it in their storage unit. So very unusual for people to be reporting things similar to Mothman inside. Not that unusual for people to report sightings on rooftops or near homes. Like, that definitely happens. But inside, that's fucking weird. So, interesting report, I thought.
Yeah, it is. It is rare. Mine was inside, which was weird.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, at the time, I would have never thought Mothman. Period. I didn't know what I was. I had no idea what was happening. I just left the room. I knew I didn't want to be around it anymore. And then Linda Scarberry also had seen it inside later in life. And I believe one of her in-laws did as well. I can't remember. Maybe not. I think one of her like one of the in-laws, I think it was her mother-in-law, did see it, but it might have been outside. But I'm pretty sure
Okay.
she saw it inside of her bedroom.
Hmm.
So it's but majority of reports are typically outside.
Right.
So the fact that it comes inside, is a testament to, well, it's not a barn owl. It's not a sandhill crane.
You would know if one of those got in your house. Yeah.
You would think, right? But in all fairness, I was doing drugs that night, so it could have been.
Who
We
knows?
just
Yeah.
we just let it out in the house, and thought it was scary. No, it's that is interesting when it does manifest that way, because like I said, it adds okay, well, this is definitely not terrestrial, whatever this is. Very cool, very neat. Very neat. I think he just wanted to play with the Gundam action figures, obviously.
Maybe.
Um,
They might be cool. I don't know. I'm not. I'm pretty fucking nerdy, but like I'm not that kind of nerdy, I guess. So I don't know a lot about Gundams. They look kind of neat. They're just giant robots, as far as I know.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
Yeah, it's pretty much. Yeah, you're not the anime type of nerd, is that what you're saying?
no,
Maybe you are to a degree. I don't
I
know.
never got into anime.
Well,
You
okay.
know, I've tried to watch it. There's I've watched some that I liked okay.
Yeah,
Emily likes it a lot more than I do, but she watches a lot of the like Miyazaki stuff,
yeah,
and that stuff's all beautiful. But I can't get into it, and I don't. It's tough for me to even put my finger on why, you know. But I think there's just some parts of it that don't translate to me very well. Where like people, you know, like it's difficult to fucking describe, but like you'll be watching an anime or something and like a character will have some crazy over the top reaction and like their whole fucking face will change, you know,
yeah.
and like it just becomes all weird and even more cartoonish. There's probably a word for it,
It
but
probably
like
is. Yeah.
I don't fucking like it. I just don't like it, and I'm like I don't want to see it. So yeah, it takes me right out of the narrative because you know, it could be like an otherwise totally serious like film or something, and then next thing you know, like somebody sees their crush and their eyes are fucking hearts, and you know, like their face is glowing or something, and I'm just like, fuck you, movie. If you're not going to take this seriously, why should I?
Well,
So
I know I get it. I'm not like crazy about it. There are some series I do like, some moments that I do like, and like once you kind of start, when you can watch a series, like that's the thing about it. Like watching an anime movie as opposed to a series is way different, especially somebody that's not a fan of it. When you can watch a series and you can get into the characters, you can overlook the goofy shit. Like
yeah,
it just kind of becomes a character trait, and you're like, oh, okay, I get that now.
sure.
But there's a lot of it out there. So you can't even be like, "Oh, I'd like to get into anime. Give me a recommendation." I mean, it just doesn't work that way.
Oh yeah, I know. I believe that. And I've seen a lot of stuff that. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. I've seen some stuff that I've liked, you know, because I have had relatively limited exposure. But you know, I grew up on like Akira and Ghost in the Shell
Right.
and all that kind of stuff. And I like that stuff, mostly because those movies don't do the kind of shit I'm talking about.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
they do seem like they're more adult, like for adults, and so they leave a lot of the goofy shit out. And so yeah, like any anime that is like that. Or there was one, yeah, I think you'll know what I'm talking about. It was on the last drive-in not that long ago. I think it had the word
Perfect
blue.
Blue.
Yeah,
Yep.
that movie was
That's
great.
good. Yeah, that's a
Yeah, I
good
like
one.
that one a lot. That was so it's not all anime. It's just I feel like a lot of it, or dare I say the majority of it is the type that I have described as not liking. So it's kind of hasn't really led me to investigate too deeply at this
Yeah.
point.
Well, and it's one of those things. I mean, you know what you like, right? I mean, I'm not going to like every horror movie. I love horror movies, but
Right.
I certainly have specific genres of horror that I enjoy. And it's taken me watching a lot of shit to get there.
Oh yeah.
To find out what you like. And anime is the same thing, and it's just like because it isn't something, especially for people like our age, and I mean you're older than I am. It's not like we grew up with it. It's not like it was a staple of our culture.
Not as much. It was something that like you would like
You had to
your
search
brother's
for.
older like or like your friend's older brother or something. You know, like the guy with like the weird patchy mustache and like the airbrushed van and shit would like yeah, seriously, would like lend you guys like one of his VHS animes or something. And like maybe it was Akira or maybe it was tentacle porn. Who
Right.
knows? You didn't know what you were gonna get. But
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't like you couldn't there wasn't like a network for it. You had to seek it out and you had to know like you had to be that level of fucking nerd like that kind of weirdo to be introduced to it.
Yeah. And
It's like an underground thing.
I like explain that to people with like, especially with like superhero movies in the 90s. Like Batman was the shit, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies were the shit.
Oh
But
yeah.
like, also, that's all we had. We didn't have any other options. Like, there was no choice. It had to be good, and like that was it. And I felt that way a lot as a young kid who was really into Godzilla. I love Godzilla movies, and the biggest reason I liked it so much was because I was obsessed with dinosaurs as a kid, and there wasn't a lot of dinosaur content. So when I saw my first Godzilla movie, which was King Kong versus Godzilla, I'd found it on a VHS tape. All I saw was a giant monkey and a giant dinosaur. I thought dinosaur. And that was all it took. And you couldn't find it anywhere else. So when the fucking Matthew Broderick, terrible, horrible Godzilla movie came out, it was my
Oh yeah.
favorite.
Yeah, I went to go see that, and I was also I've always been a big fan of giant monsters.
Yeah.
So I also I went to go see that movie in the fucking theater. I
Yeah.
was so excited,
Yeah.
and then like I got barely any Godzilla and like a bunch of stupid Velociraptor looking baby Godzillas, and I was like, God damn it, movie! You had one job.
Yeah.
You had one fucking job. That was to give me the maximum amount of Godzilla that you could fit into a fucking movie, and you couldn't even do that.
No, I didn't realize how bad it was until I was an adult and watched it. I
No,
as a
I'm
kid, I
sure.
loved it. I was like, this is
Yeah.
great. But again, that's because that's what I had, right? It's what we had. And so I just appreciated it for what it was. Nowadays, you can find anything you want ever, anywhere. We're oversaturated. So we can't appreciate the bad as much. Unless you kind of already did appreciate the bad. So that's my take on it anyway. Um,
I love shitty movies. Like
yeah,
I watch. That's what I do. I mean, like
same. Yeah.
yeah, like I love B horror movies. I shouldn't even say shitty because they're fun. It's if I'm having fun watching it, that movie to me has done its job. That is a
Yeah.
successful movie. So like, like I legitimately will look for a certain like scream queens and stuff. Like if Linnea Quigley's in it, I mean, I am gonna like it. Like, there's no way I'm not. I can't think of a movie she's been in. It doesn't matter how bad they get that I have not enjoyed.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Like,
Yeah. It's no, I do. I love me some good bad horror. But I have to watch it with other people to get into it. And that's my thing. I have to have other people to riff on it with, and we have a great time. And that's what my Halloween party this year turned into, that, which is very unusual for my parties. They're usually pretty wild. But we literally
yeah.
just sat here and watched horror movies together. And what we did was we turned Shutter on, and Shutter's got those channels that are just running movies constantly.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't even tell you what we watched, but we had such a good time watching whatever the fuck it was. It was so bad. I would never watch it on my own, but watching it with a group of people and just riffing on it, that is a great Saturday night. Let me tell you, I recommend
Yeah.
it.
That's my idea of a party. I wouldn't like a normal party. Like if a normal party is just people getting hammered and like talking too loudly to each other, I'll pass on that. But if you want to watch fucking horror movies and make fun of them or whatever, like I'll do that anytime. Literally anytime.
Yeah, it was a good time. So I mean, I don't know how we got off of this tangent from winged humanoid encounters, but
It doesn't matter.
here we are talking about horror movies.
Right.
Um, all right. Anyway, did you have any other news to share?
No, I feel like at this point we may just want to get to the main show here.
Let's do it. Uh, let's get there. All right. So let's talk about this. I say that like I'm disappointed. I'm not. I kind of love this story. I'll be honest with you. I do.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is. It's a lot of fun. So we're doing this because it is coming up on an anniversary here. So February 24th of 1942. This was just shy of 3 months after the U.S. had entered into World War II after the Japanese had attacked Pearl Harbor. Something strange happened. So the Office of Naval Intelligence ended up issuing a warning that an attack on mainland California could happen within the next 10 hours. Um, let's talk about the climate of America at the time before we go any further. So World War II spawned a lot of paranoia and distrust and fear. People our age and older, I'm sure you remember your grandparents probably talking about having times where schools would shut down or they would have like bomb drills or hell, I think we even had sometimes, of course, nothing like this.
I
Um,
did when I was a kid. I was a little kid in the 80s, at the end of the Cold War, and we would still have like as part of our tornado drills in my elementary school when I was a little kid. Like kindergarten, first, second, third grade, we would have like nuclear awareness drills
yeah.
as well. So it was kind of rolled into the tornado drills. But yeah, we didn't know that the commies weren't going to nuke us in
Right?
1985. You know, like that was still a possibility.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was yeah. You'd get under your desk. I remember. Not like that's gonna
Yeah,
do anything against a nuke, but we
right.
thought it was.
We would shelter in the hallway, which
Oh, okay.
as anybody who follows science knows, much safer than a desk. So
That's, yes, scientifically,
versus nukes.
it is the only thing that stops nukes: a school hallway.
Yes.
Of course, but there's a lot of that going on. I mean, people were, expecting blackouts constantly. The news, just journalism was all propaganda. It's crazy. And you'll find a lot of that if you're, some people are big World War II buffs. I'm not. It is probably one of the more interesting topics in American history, I think. But or just in world history in general, it is a very interesting subject. But there are people that are crazy about it. But like war propaganda, I mean, you can go on YouTube and find all the videos and stuff about it. I think Donald Duck was part of one time. So that was cool. But a lot of fear mongering, and people were scared, especially again coming off of the tales of being attacked on our own land. That just wasn't really something that we were used to. And I'm sure a lot of us, probably all of us, I don't think anybody is really young that listens to the show. We can relate, right? We remember 9/11 and how scary that was. It was
Sure.
a very stressful time. I mean, I was a kid, but I remember like thinking, "This is it. The world's going to end," legitimately. So, we can
Right.
kind of relate, but on this note, I mean, we were fully at war. We had already been attacked, and we're anticipating more attacks. So when the Office of Naval Intelligence comes forward and says, "Yeah, California's going to get attacked in the next 10 hours," you've got a bunch of military just waiting for it to happen, and civilians.
Oh, sure. I mean, everybody's on guard at that point. And really, what's interesting about this climate too is, after the Pearl Harbor attack, obviously, which was a huge pivotal moment in American history. People were seeing ghosts constantly on the West Coast, and by that I mean inexperienced pilots, radar operators, uh, just all of these people out there who would be in a position to observe what's going on along that coastline were reporting all of these misidentified objects as Japanese warships and submarines and shit. And it would be like everything from fishing boats to like debris, like logs and stuff, or like surfacing whales, even. Like they were seeing like everything they saw was a fucking Japanese like warship,
Yeah.
submarine, invasion, whatever at this point.
Yeah, it was constantly happening. So again, you had all these families, all these people just trying to live their life that would just on the daily be terrified that something was going on. This particular incident just had such a special set of circumstances happen, and it's still. I'm not going to say it's kind of a mystery as to what it is. We'll get into that. But it's obviously still being talked about now in 2024. We're almost at 100 years. We're a little over, a little over 80 now. We're still talking about it. So here we go. I'm going to just go ahead and let's get into the timeline and what was going on. So at around 2 a.m. that evening, so this would be 2 a.m. on the 25th at this point, military radar had picked up something that was coming towards the area. And so they assumed this is it. This is what they were talking about. And thought, hey, here it is. This is a Japanese ship. Get ready. As of 2:25, a total blackout had occurred in the area there in Los Angeles, and thousands of air raid wardens were summoned to their positions, ready to go. And starting at about 3:16 a.m., the 37th Coast Artillery Brigade had opened fire. And it was crazy. I mean, they were just shooting consistently because of this report of something popping up on the radar. So from there, calls are fucking flooding in. Civilians are calling in. They're reporting seeing all this aircraft. There was even a report of a craft that was down, that was on the ground in Hollywood, a Japanese
Yeah,
plane.
Yes, a Japanese fighter, right?
Yeah.
Crashed at an intersection in Hollywood. Now, and when you say they opened fire, they were they opened fire with 50 caliber machine guns and fucking anti-aircraft shells.
Yeah.
Like big ass anti-aircraft shells, like 13-pound fucking shells. So like there are explosions happening in the sky at this point.
Yeah. Remember that part in the Star Spangled Banner?
Yes, exactly.
It was like that. You know, it was just constant. I mean, the whole fucking sky was lit, but nobody could really see anything because of all the smoke and the fires and the explosions. And it was craziness. It was absolute pandemonium. And of course, the civilians, they're losing their shit. You know, they've lost all electricity. They don't really know what to do. And this is just, I mean, this goes on for about 4 hours. Finally, at around 7:21 a.m., they were given the all clear. And then this is where it gets weird. Okay. Um, 5 people did end up dying. They were all civilian. Two of them
Right.
were heart attacks, which, you know, of course, could have been brought on from the stress of the situation. Three of them were car accidents. Again, probably because it was a blackout. People were scared. They were rushing to get out of the area. But nothing else really. So, you know, people are kind of wondering, well, what the fuck? You know, waiting for the report, waiting for the press conference. What happened exactly? Um, so the Secretary of the Navy, Frank Knox, he goes on to go ahead and deliver a press conference. He said, it was a false alarm. We were just shooting at nothing. He doesn't really give a good explanation. Just that it was not legitimate. There was no attack, anything like that happened.
Anxiety and war nerves
Yes, right.
was was the official. That's my favorite. War. Look, you guys, you got a bad case of the war nerves. You need to just settle the fuck down. All right.
It's the military's version of mass hysteria.
Yeah. Just take a few deep breaths. You know, in with the good vibes, out with the war nerves. Just get rid of it.
Y'all just shot at nothing all night for no reason.
1,400 shells were fired.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's so much.
It's well, right. It went, like I said, it went on for 4 hours. I mean, you can't even imagine somebody, you know, opening fire, shooting one gunshot in your presence. Right? That's already panic inducing. Can you imagine
Yeah.
1,400 of military grade weapons being shot into fucking God knows what? You know, nothing
Yeah.
is what they're saying.
And the shrapnel from those anti-aircraft
Oh, yeah.
shells, like they were coming down and like harming buildings and shit. Like there was real property damage being caused by this. So like it wasn't just this thing happening overhead. It would have felt like it was happening all around everybody. Like you were in the middle of a fucking war zone,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's what it was. And you know, initially, I'll be honest with you. When I first read this story, the first time it ever came to my attention, and I'm reading about it, I was reading about it on probably like a ufology website or, you know, something weird, and I
Oh,
was
sure.
like, that didn't fucking happen. And then like I went, no, like this legit, like that whole timeline, that all fucking happened. Like
Oh yeah.
this is a very real situation. And the guy comes out and he's like, yeah, it's nothing. Um, Army General George C. Marshall came out and says that, oh no, it was something, but it was psychological warfare. It was our enemy using commercial planes to freak us out. Basically, is what he said. And you know, for what I don't know. I guess the psychological tactic in war isn't bad. You know, um, but it was still pretty unfounded, especially because later, after the war had ended, the Japanese had confirmed that they never flew over that area. It didn't happen. So, and I guess they could be lying, right? You know, I don't know. But because there's conflicting stories going on here, and then you also had the Secretary of War Henry Stimson came out and said that there were 15 planes. He counted them, 15 planes in total. So you had all these different stories going on. So Representative Leland Ford came forward and said, I want a congressional investigation on this. This isn't making any fucking sense. And to my knowledge, I don't think they didn't do anything quite yet at the time. They were just kind of like, nah, false alarm is fine. We got other shit to worry about, and kind of moved on with their life. Um, But the press, and this is where it gets interesting, the press, the Los Angeles Times, had, of course, written up, did a write up about it on February 26th. And in their write up, they had included a photo. And in the photo, it is a bunch of searchlights that are all centered on one object. And you can't see what the object is. That's just that. You cannot see what it is that they're pointing at. If they're pointing at anything at all, there might not even be anything there. This photo has now made its rounds across everywhere. We know that the original photo was doctored, and so it has probably been doctored since its debut, and therefore people think that they could have been shooting at a UFO. So let's stop there with the facts. I don't think I have any more facts. I think I have all speculation. Oh no! I've got one more fact. Later on, the United States Coast Artillery Association ended up saying that it was, in fact, a weather balloon that was picked up on radar. If anybody saw anything in the sky, it was absolutely a weather balloon, and if anybody saw any debris, it was also a weather balloon. Weather balloon.
Which is my favorite thing.
It's
You know,
always,
this might be the first instance of a weather balloon being used as like the explanation for a case of this
yep,
magnitude. I mean, because this is pretty early days
yep,
for modern UFO stuff, right? 1942. I mean, this is 5 years before Kenneth Arnold, 5 years before Roswell.
mm-hmm,
Um, I mean, this would have been very very early on. So that shit is fascinating to me. I mean, and that explanation that didn't come out until like the 80s. It was like
yeah,
1983
way later.
when they were like, "Oh no, it was a weather balloon,
Yep.
a weather balloon with lights attached to it."
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah, it had lights on
So
it.
I don't know,
They
maybe.
were spinning. I think that's where Roswell got the idea for to say it was a weather balloon, right?
I mean, probably.
They were like, "Oh, we did this before. It worked that time, or we can do it." Yeah, it was no, it was really interesting. I think that there was an earlier theory about the weather balloon, but it wasn't confirmed. I think that was in the 1950s,
Okay,
and then later on in the 80s, the official report was finally done, the actual investigation on it, and they said it was a weather balloon. Um,
gotcha.
so let's let's talk about this. Let's theorize a little bit about what may have been going on. Um, what about ufology in that time period? Do you know what they were seeing in the sky back then? Are you aware of early UFO reports?
I mean, in 1942, like, I am not really familiar with who was with who even was investigating UFOs at that time, because for me, and what I'm aware of, like, really the American obsession with UFOs began in 1947.
Hmm.
So when this went down, we're still 5 years out from we're still 5 years out from flying saucers being a
Right,
term.
right.
You know,
So early
um,
UFO report, there are some. There's not a lot. You're right. Who was
sure.
investigating it? Really, nobody was. There are some maybe, potential credible reports that were sent off to some form of police. Most of them were like giant, like really big airships or like zeppelins or
Oh, the 19th century airships and stuff like that.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So they're very very big and bulky, right? Primitive, not the sleek flying disc that we've all come to know and love, or the even sleeker Tic Tac.
Right.
So the early model UFOs, that is what they look like at the time. Um, Normally, right? And let's just say that's canon, right? Let's say that's what UFOs look like. They might have. I mean, that's what they were saying. So that's
Sure.
that's what we can go off of. So this thing comes on radar. I mean, is it possible that it could have been a weather balloon? Um, it is possible. Is it probable that it was a weather balloon? I don't know that I agree with that all the way. Like, I'm kind of leaning towards the conspiracy here, because here's the thing: we talked about the climate of the culture at the time, and it was very paranoid. Don't you think that had there been a weather balloon going up, that we would have known about it way before it happened? Like, why wasn't that reported to the military at all? Unless it wasn't ours, I guess, but we didn't say if it was ours or theirs or anybody's. I don't know. What do you think about the weather balloon explanation?
Well, I mean, it's given the overall state of mind on the West Coast at that time, it would not surprise me if something like a misidentified weather balloon caused that kind of uproar. I think that, I mean, look, there's no way that this isn't embarrassing for the military, right?
Right.
Like,
Either
no way
way.
at all. Yeah, and so at some point, like they're just trying to save face, you know. And so it makes a certain amount of sense to me for them right away to just be like, you know, like, look, it's war nerves, you know, like we're all experiencing it, like it just is what it is. We're all going through it right now, rather than necessarily wanting it to be like a misidentified weather balloon. Although arguably they're about equally embarrassing, but at least, you know, if you're talking about something like a weather balloon being misidentified, then um, that kind of opens the door for other misidentifications. And so at that point, people are like, well, God, I hope you don't start shooting down, fuck, I don't know, uh, our
Commercial flights,
own
so you know.
aircraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything. At that point in the 40s, like the early 40s, how popular was commercial air flight? That would have been, boy, that would have been
Just for rich people?
very, very early. Yeah, just for super fucking rich people, I bet.
Yeah. True. Very true. And you know, they don't want to get shot down, so
Yeah, right. And they actually have a say, you
right.
know, like they're super rich. Like people care what they think about stuff. So sure.
Yeah, I agree with
So
that.
yeah, I don't know. Like I think that I don't have a I'm not like immediately put off by the idea that that it could have been a weather balloon. Um, I think it's interesting when you get into the like the eyewitness testimony of people who were on the ground. I mean, military personnel, right? Who were on the ground, and they talk about seeing craft. You know, like they didn't think that they were shooting at nothing, but at the same time, you know, they could have been. Uh, well, it's speculated at least that they were what they were seeing was the like the blast from the artillery that they were mistaking
Sure.
for aircraft or reflections from that off of like the clouds or the smoke or something, sort of creating this illusion that they were misidentifying. So fuck, I don't know what they were seeing. All I know is that if there were like craft there, none of them seem to have been shot down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people were reporting that something was shot down. I mean, how can you mistake debris for a whole fucking craft? But what they were reporting consistently was not like, oh, it looks like a zeppelin. Oh, it looks like a disc. They were saying they look like airplanes.
Right.
Even the thing that crashed, which there was no crash retrieval report period for any of that. I'm sure
Yeah. Well,
there would have been
they
cleanup.
said a fighter crashed on like an
Right.
intersection in Hollywood.
Right.
That's probably just somebody fucking around
It
making
could have
stuff
been.
up.
Sure. It definitely could. I mean, I'm sure, you know, I'm sure we had people like that back in the 1940s too.
Sure.
You know, I guess I don't see that, you know, there's no proof. There's proof that it was reported. There's no proof that it actually happened. That
Right.
part
Like
actually happened.
no proof. And
Um,
if something like that happened in the middle of a hugely populated city, like I get it if it's happening in the fucking New Mexico desert or something. But if it's happening in the middle of fucking Hollywood,
yeah.
look, I'm sorry. We would know.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to talk about it. We would just know.
Yeah. It was kind of, I mean, I agree with that part. What do you make of the photo?
The photo to me, the one that well, the oldest one I can find, which you can find some scanned copies of the original like L.A. Times newspaper, right? And it looks like spotlights reflecting off of smoke and clouds with artillery bursts.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't see an object. I see spotlights reflecting off of clouds and smoke, and then like little artillery bursts and shit around them.
I can see how people see an object. I can see how they see a saucer shaped object because that is ultimately what they're getting at. However, it's a very it's a very easy thing to overlook. What you're seeing is all the spotlights focused in on one area that creates that circle.
Right.
It's not necessarily that that's an object that looks that way. It's just that the lights are going to create that effect, period. And then you mix in 1940s photography with it, that's your result. I don't think that it's proof of any type of UFO invasion or whatever. And not to mention, anyway, if anybody's flying UFOs and they're coming to us, they're not going to get taken down by our weapons. It's just not going to happen. Um, that's what I think anyway. Like, we are not a threat to them, period.
Would seem unlikely. Yeah.
Right. But I do think that something strange happened here, and whether it be, some type of cover up because the government is too proud to admit to fucking up, or whatever the case is. I mean, I do feel like there was a lot of dishonesty around it, and I don't know what that is. It just could be that, what we already know, eyewitness accounts are faulty, right? So it could have definitely been some type of mass hysteria. It could have been the people in the military reporting seeing craft because they are seeing all of the debris happening because they're shooting at nothing, essentially. But there were reports of things on radar. Some reports even say that there were three separate objects, but I can't verify those personally. That could just be more UFO propaganda. UFO. Is there like how like in really extreme horror movies they call it torture porn? Is there like a
Right.
term for that in ufology?
For what?
For like,
UFO propaganda?
yeah, it's like to make it sexy.
Can we call it propaganda porn?
Yeah, sure.
No, I mean, like we don't have to overcomplicate
It's
this,
gotta be
right?
simple.
Sure, just keep it simple.
We know that people in these communities are well known for exaggerating and using details and omitting other information to make a point. Like I said, I don't know if I necessarily believe that it was visitors from outer space. But I do think that something dishonest did happen here. That in the grand scheme of things, well, it doesn't matter because it's 2024 and like we're still here, right? So who cares?
Right.
But I do feel like there was a cover up that happened of some sort. I don't know what.
Oh, there's no doubt that the military response to this was grade A fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Just right out of the gate. And that, I think, more than anything, has fed into conspiracy theories about this event because the military didn't want to fucking talk about it. Like they were very, very stubbornly silent about this fucking issue. And I think that's arguably why the press ran with it the way that they did, and I think it's probably why um, you've got people today thinking that it was a UFO. And I think what is probably more likely is what I mentioned earlier, that the military didn't want to talk about it because it's super fucking embarrassing
Right.
that we were firing anti-aircraft fucking shells over, the second largest city in America over a fucking weather balloon.
Yeah.
Like, how incompetent does that shit look? So they just didn't want to fucking talk about it. And they're like, well, if we just don't talk about it and we ignore it, it'll go away. And you know what? It mostly did. So like that is a tried and true method of dealing with controversy, is just to ignore it until it goes away. Um, so it is what it is. But every time the military does that, of course, um, whatever they're talking about becomes rife for conspiracy theory. Like we saw the same thing with fucking Roswell and how that was handled. Right? You've got this debris that is recovered. You've got the early headline, being a statement about recovering a flying disc. And then you've got an immediate 180 from that into it was just a weather balloon. And we know now that even according to the official fucking explanation, the weather balloon story was a cover up because, now they're saying that it was a Project Mogul spy balloon.
Yeah.
But there's even some controversy there with, I don't know if you saw this recently, but there was an ex NASA employee who had come forward anonymously and spoken to the press about seeing a journal for I want to say the director of the project at that time, or something similar. Without looking it up right now, whatever, people will Google it and they'll tell me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
But found a journal entry by somebody important in Project Mogul about how they didn't actually launch a balloon on June 4th, 1947, which is the date, of course, that people point to as when the Project Mogul balloon that purportedly caused Roswell was launched. And so it's just layers and layers of bullshit. But my point is, you get this consistent response from our military of obfuscate, 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 just pile
Yep.
bullshit on top of bullshit until people are so fucking fatigued that they just don't care anymore and they move on because none of this shit is paying their mortgage. So like you just got to continue on with life. You go to work and you fucking forget about it, right?
Yep. Well, and we
Yeah.
see that happen now. We just watched it happen the past couple years with the Tic Tac video. Um, you know, it
Yeah.
wasn't theirs for the longest time until all of a sudden, oh, it's ours. Sorry that we lied. you know I mean, and I said that we covered, of course we covered Roswell in the show. I have a one of my people here that lives locally. He says that his grandfather flew the debris from Roswell to Wright Pat, and they didn't know about this until after grandfather died. He's skeptical. He doesn't really know for sure. The shit that he found in grandpa's attic is very telling. And then of course after like he died and he, brought all that to light, somebody wrote a book about it. It was neat, I guess. I don't know. Um, Anyway, so of course Roswell is close, close to home for me because it's literally close to home because it's all supposed to be at Wright Pat, and it's like
Sure.
10 minutes away. So of course we covered it on the show, and I came to that conclusion. I come to that conclusion now, even if they were honest with us, and one of those explanations could be honest. But even if they were, who the fuck's going to believe them now after they changed the story so many times? you know?
Right.
But then when you build that distrust with your authoritative figures, then yes, it is very easy to then just not trust them whenever they say anything. Which then breeds conspiracy. And sometimes it's fun, right? Like, was there a UFO over Los Angeles in 1942? And sometimes it's dangerous, like, let's go overthrow the Capitol building. Um, it just depends on the type of person you are, I guess. To make up your mind with that. I think that, again, I don't necessarily think that these were extraterrestrials, but I do think something happened here. And then I do think that, because I don't even know, I mean, do you know when this became a ufological hit piece? I mean, when did it convert from a military mistake to UFOs?
That's a good question because nothing that I'm seeing from the actual time period, like no contemporary source for when this happened that I've seen was intimating that it was any kind of extraterrestrial object or anything we would conceive of as a UFO. So I don't know when this made the jump from you know like all-time historical military fuck up to UFO conspiracy theory. I would guess, just because that, like, of when a lot of this stuff was sort of making that jump, that it was probably in like the 80s,
Yeah.
maybe 80s or 90s. Because that's when like Roswell sort of came around in the 70s, I think. So maybe like 70s, 80s, probably.
When it was hot.
That would be my guess. I don't really know,
No, I
but
don't either. Yeah, I didn't really find the first source for when people started talking about this being potentially UFOs. But to their credit, I will say, and if we are giving anybody in Congress right now that's talking about UAP disclosure any type of credibility, Ryan Graves, the Navy guy, I mean, he says that these things pretty much just exist all the time, right off the West Coast, constantly, or in the skies.
Mm.
I mean, is that a testament to maybe some of these sightings that people assumed were adversary sightings and they weren't? It could be. One of the things that people talk about sometimes is these things, coming out of the water. They go in and out of the water. Could this have been? Could some of those sightings and some of that panic been the fault of UFOs at the time? I'm open to that idea.
Sure. I think that is well worth speculating about,
Yeah.
because that does make a certain amount of sense. And you have to wonder if, given the climate at the time, right, like the political and cultural climate of fear
Hmm.
that existed at that time, and people were just interpreting everything as a Japanese fucking invasion, right? So you have to imagine, if people were seeing something that they couldn't explain, again, 5 years before flying saucers even exists as a term, would they be more likely to interpret that as something paranormal or as some kind of enemy warship? And so, I mean, given what was happening at that time, I think it makes a certain amount of sense for somebody to see something that they can't explain and interpret that according to the climate of their day, which at this time would be some sort of Japanese attack,
Right.
right?
Japanese weapons, some sort of secret Japanese spycraft.
Yeah,
Definitely. And especially because we were experimenting the hell out of everything. Like we were making all kinds of crazy shit during that time. Not just us, the whole world was.
yeah.
We know that. Again, right, Pat? It's right up the street. They have a whole free museum and you can go see some of the crazy shit they
I
were
love that
making.
museum. That museum is fucking awesome.
Oh, have you
So if
been
you get
really?
a, oh yeah, oh totally.
That's awesome. Right.
Yeah, I have relatives over there. Yeah,
Oh, right
totally.
now they're doing a dinosaur exhibit, and I don't know what that has to do with flying, but I'm here for it. So
I don't know. All I know is like they have like the coolest collection of military fucking
they
aircraft.
do,
Like
yeah.
it's so cool. Yeah, like that A-10 Warthog is fucking amazing.
Oh yeah, it's a really, and it's free. You don't even have to pay to
Oh
go in. You
yeah.
just go. Uh,
Well, I think they accept donations, but that's like every
yeah.
museum, right?
Yep. Yep. And you go in. They have a gift shop, and there's all kinds of shit about aliens in it. So that's cool.
Nice.
you know. But-
Yeah, no, it's all kinds of cool shit. They've got
yeah.
like the little spy capsules that,
Oh yeah.
the experimental ones
Yep.
that were attached to balloons, and like our plan was just to like stick an astronaut or something in there and be like, we're gonna float you over Russia, right? And you're gonna spy on them
Yeah.
from this balloon capsule. No, 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 just trust us.
Yeah, they were cooking up all kinds of craziness back then,
Right.
and you can see, yeah, like I said, you can see a lot of it on display. I think that at one point in time, I know at one point in time they had the Joe Simonton space pancakes were on display at Right Pat.
No shit. I never got to see that stuff. I just saw normal military stuff, but
Yeah,
still cool.
yeah. So they'll do like short term exhibits and stuff, and that was happened to be one of them. Anyway, but yeah, lots of cool stuff, and like I said, it's definitely shows you what we were doing at the time. I mean, it was new, right? So we're trying out everything. We were still very new to flights and how that could benefit us, and anything the military does. I mean, they're going to figure out how to kill as many people as they can, as quick as they can. Uh, they're going to experiment with craft or how they're going to spy or how they're going to do whatever it is they're wanting to do. So
Intelligence was like that was the big thing we were
yeah,
always still are
yeah.
always working on. Like that gets so many like R&D dollars because intelligence is invaluable. Like anybody can make a weapon that'll blow up the world, right?
Hmm.
But like intelligence, that shit's really worth
Oh
something.
yeah. Oh yeah. And and it was all big, during that time. So I mean a lot of innovation came from World War II, from everybody. And so people probably were seeing a lot of unidentified craft. Actually we know they were seeing a lot of that at the time. So then it does make it extra hard to even begin to start thinking, oh, well, that's aliens. I mean, you're
Right.
already talking about something that's not popular to begin with. Their first thought isn't otherworldly visitors. They don't have podcasts back then to know.
No, that's not where people's minds were
No,
at that point.
no, it was that, oh, there's a spy plane or what have you. So I think that the Japanese coming out and saying that they did not fly over that area, I think that is accurate. So I think that they told the truth. They're
Sure.
like, don't blame that shit on us. And
Well, especially because like they 100% copped to all the shit that they did
yeah,
do.
yeah.
So like, why would they lie about that one fucking thing when they admitted to everything
Everything
else?
else, right? Yeah, and so I mean, well, we ended up. I mean, we hired a bunch of them after the war. I was like part of our agreement with them was that a lot of other people would come work for us, and so
Hmm.
that's a whole fucking cover up for real in and of itself. Again, you do have these legitimate government cover ups that happen, do
Oh,
happen.
sure.
Which
Yeah, like Project Paperclip and stuff with all the German scientists.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm sure eventually we'll cover some of it. People like these stories. I'm not much of a history person myself. Just if I'm quite honest with you, just not quite there. Again, some of it I think is pretty interesting,
Yeah.
but I want to get down to the facts of what we know actually happened at the end of the day, and
Sure.
right now the facts as they are is that fateful day in February in Los Angeles, it was a weather balloon because, of course,
That's the official story. And we have no evidence to the contrary.
right?
But that's the not that okay, that's not the same thing as it being proven. You know what I mean? So like that's the official explanation. I wouldn't fault anybody for believing that. But given how much, time has passed, um, do I think that we will ever know with 100% certainty? Probably not.
No, no.
I don't think that like I just don't think that you can. I'm also not saying that it has to be, a UFO or a fucking spaceship or something. But is the door open for there to have been something anomalous about this event? Sure. Again, like there, I don't think the evidence is super strong. Like, don't go all weird conspiracy theory or anything about it. But I think it's a good example. Okay, more than anything, this is a good example of why you can never fucking trust the government.
Absolutely.
They will just fucking lie about everything. They try to obfuscate everything, um, just constantly. You
Mhm.
can't trust them for shit. Never believe them.
No, never. I mean, whatever it is that they're saying is probably a lie to some degree. No, I think this is important in ufology, and here's why I think it's important in ufology because they fucked up. Like whatever it is that happened on that day, they fucked up. Right? The
Yeah.
military fucked all the way up. And then they couldn't even get their story straight enough to feed us a good enough lie that was believable. And everybody was like, we don't believe you. All right. Um, I have an unpopular opinion about UFOs in the government, and that is that the government doesn't disclose things because they don't know. They genuinely don't have the answer. I think that there are certain events and certain situations, like for me, Roswell's a UFO crash. That's what I think.
Mm.
I think that people knew what they saw, and I think that it has come out, and I think that's what it was. I think when they put that report out and said, "Hey, a flying saucer crashed here," I think they weren't lying for once. In different things, but I think that just because like they might have debris of some sort, just because they might even have bodies somewhere, it doesn't mean that they really understand that life, where it comes from, how it works, and so on and so forth. And so I
Sure.
think that that's why they don't disclose things to us, is because it's a lot scarier for them to look at us and go, "Hey, we have this thing, and we don't really know how it works," than it is to just go, "We don't know what you're talking about." And I think,
Is that an unpopular opinion,
oh
though?
fuck yeah, people hate me for it. They're like, "No, the
Well,
government."
because I believe the same thing, and
Yeah,
I talk about it a lot, and everybody I know seems to think that. But
really,
I guess we're not representative
Right?
of the rank and file, I
Yeah, we're
suppose.
not. cool like those other people. Like, I don't know, no, I find people argue with me a lot. They're like, oh no, the government knows about everything. Of course I do cryptids and stuff too. So
Right.
the government covers up cryptids, is what they say, which
Yeah.
I disagree with, but
I think that the government has more information that they're not telling us, but I
yes.
don't I don't think they understand the
No.
phenomenon any more than anybody
Right,
else.
exactly. And, it doesn't, they're, and that's that. And that's why they don't tell us, is because it would be scary for that to happen. And we saw that happen. We watched it happen with COVID. We fucking
Yeah.
watched that shit happen. We watched the whole world panic when they said there's this brand new virus and we don't really know how it works, and everybody lost their shit. So, and then, of course, some people will use that to say, well, see, COVID was just a psyop to see how we react to UFOs. Whatever. It doesn't matter if it is or isn't. Guess what? We fell for it. Um,
Well, it's not. And get vaccinated,
you're
God
right.
damn it.
It's not. Yes.
Anyway.
Yes. Correct. That's the correct answer. Um,
Right.
but, at the end of the day, I mean, we are like that. We expect some degree of security and safety from our authoritative figures. And we don't have that when they don't know what they're talking about. And
Sure.
again, I think that this is great evidence for that. They don't have their shit together. Like, you people think that they have their shit together. They just don't. Like, are there conspiracies that have been proven to be true? Yes. But guess what? It comes out in the light. MK Ultra didn't just fucking happen. There were so many people talking about it while it was happening that we just chose to fucking ignore it. We just chose to turn a blind eye to it until one day we found not even all the files, some of the files of proof that this happened.
Right.
Again, these things do eventually come forward. I feel like it does happen, yes, but it's not like this big organized syndicate that has its shit together. It's not a well-oiled machine, like people tend to think it is. And I like this because it validates my argument.
I like this evidence because it validates my argument.
Yes,
That's the most honest thing I've ever heard. Like, and I appreciate that about you.
that's all you're going to get
Honestly.
here.
Nice. Nothing but brutal honesty.
Brutal. Honest.
No, I agree with that. I think. I mean, the other part of it too is the government doesn't want to show weakness, right? They don't want, just in general, they don't want to show weakness, especially not publicly. Certainly not in a way that any of their perceived enemies might see. And so, coming out and saying, "Hey, this thing is happening, and we don't know what it is more damaging to our reputation amongst our adversaries than even the slightest chance that they might believe that we have technology from recovered spaceships or something, right? Like, if we could get China to believe even a little bit that we might have that, that's an advantage for the U.S. military.
Right.
And so they don't want to come out and say, "Hey, we don't know what the fuck this is," because that's just admitting weakness, and there's no benefit to it. So they're just not gonna. And I think in terms of like government competence, I wouldn't say that the government or the military, like, so no particular branch of the government is completely incompetent. I think that they are organized and run in a way to be as roughly about as competent as you could hope for something that massive. I think what people need to understand is that it's all just human beings, right? The government is not this giant monolithic entity. It is various organizations, loosely related organizations made up of human beings. And what do human beings do best? We fuck up.
Yeah.
We make mistakes, and so do they. Like, so when stuff like this happens, I think after it happens, there are probably institutional changes that are made um, to, within protocols and things, right? Like, to ensure that it doesn't happen again. But we're constantly finding new and innovative ways to fuck up, and we're always gonna. Like, that's the nature of humanity, right? Like, it just is what it is. Like, we make mistakes and we learn from them, but in order to keep learning, we have to keep making new mistakes. So yeah, the like government agencies, the military, they're gonna fuck up. They're gonna make mistakes. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And when they do, we have to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
We have to say, hey, we're all adults here. Just admit you fucked up. Yeah, right. And that's all the press wanted at the time, by the way, to bring this all the way back
Yeah.
to the battle of Los Angeles. That's all they wanted at the time. They were just like, why are you being so quiet about this? This doesn't look good. And the biggest concern that I saw being related by newspapers was, hey, you're scaring people
Right.
by not coming out and talking about this and explaining it thoroughly in a way that makes sense to everybody. You are just contributing to the climate of fear.
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't even think they understand what really happened.
Yeah, maybe not 100%.
They're just like, they stop shooting and then they all look at each other like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, did we hit anything? I don't think so.
Was
All right, well.
Did anybody see anything? I think I saw a plane or 15.
Yeah, right.
You know, really, you're telling me one guy's saying 15 planes. The fucking what was he? The Secretary of War said 15 fucking planes, and there's not one. It ends up being not one. I mean, it's so goofy. It's so
It
goofy.
is.
So I think that's really what happened. I think they were just like, and I think their best guess is that there wasn't anything, right? Because there's no evidence that there's no debris of anything.
No,
So
I mean, the only debris that we found was like the shrapnel and
yeah.
shit from our own anti-aircraft shells
Mhm.
that came down and damaged fucking civilian buildings and
Yep.
homes.
And because they didn't find anything, they're just like, well, maybe it was this weather balloon that caused all this. We don't know.
Right.
But they can't go, we don't know. I think they drew a pretty, they tried to draw the best conclusion that they can, but I think that they don't even really understood what happened. You ever do that? I mean, you ever
Sure.
get into a fight with somebody, right? It starts off as like an argument and then it just continues to escalate. And then like, you're at the end of the argument and you're like, well, I've always hated your fucking eyeballs. They look so weird in your head. And you're like, and you start thinking like, how did I become this low, right? Like, what is going on here? Like, how did this escalate to this point? It's like that.
Right. Or just basically like you get all the way to the end of the argument, and no matter what transpired during that argument, you're like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm still right.
Right. Yeah. And that's it.
Pretty much.
You don't even remember what the argument was at that point. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You're so fucking mad. It doesn't matter. You're going to be right no matter what. It's just illogical. It's a logical human emotion. And is it possible that this illogical human emotion happened in a huge group of people that we give a bunch of weapons to and train to kill others? Yes. Absolutely.
Sure.
Why not? If it can happen on the individual level, why can't it happen on the larger scale? So anyway, that's what I think. And I think that it is goofy and I enjoy it. It's a good time. It wasn't a good
Oh
time when it
yeah.
was happening, but
No. But it is a great story.
yeah, it's a classic. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know. What's your theories on this? Did I miss something? Is there some holy grail of information out there that I didn't cover that this clearly points to an alien invasion that we were able to disrupt and stop in its tracks? Maybe I'm fucking wrong. Maybe you were the alien that was there and you listened to the show and you have some insight into it. Let me know.
Yeah. The real aliens were the friends we made along the way.
Tobias, do you have any closing remarks on the Battle of Los Angeles?
Don't trust the government ever.
That's a good one. Don't trust the government.
Just don't.
They're not good people. They're not your friend. And your tax dollars paid for all those wasted artillery.
Well, my grandparents' tax dollars, damn it.
So just remember that. And also get vaccinated if you're able to.
What the fuck? COVID is not a conspiracy. Just shut
Right.
up.
Just get the vaccine. It's fine. And get your flu shot too. It's good for you.
God damn, I get my flu shot every fucking year. Every year. You know what? I haven't had the flu ever as an adult.
Wow, not ever.
Like never. I never get sick.
What?
I get vaccinated every year.
It's almost like it works.
Right? Weird. And the best part is if our Wi-Fi goes out, I emit like a strong enough 5G signal. We can still use our cell phones.
Perfect.
Bam. That's a
That's
win-win.
what I was looking for.
Just kidding, though. Seriously, it's not a conspiracy. Get your fucking vaccine.
Yeah, people will run with that one.
Right.
This guy on this podcast one time.
Right. He's like a human cell phone tower.
People are gonna start coming up to you at conventions. They're like, "Hey, man, can I use some of your service?" You could
Right.
make money off of that.
I
You could
could.
bring like a secret hotspot and be like, "Yeah, man, $20. Here's the
Absolutely.
password."
Yes. Password is
That's
conspiracy.
what it is.
1, 2, 3. I'd have to make it something else. I'd have to make it like, yeah, the password is Rube. Yeah, that's RUBE.
Like Rubik's cube. Yep, that's it.
Yes. Right.
You got it.
Nailed it. You are a certified genius.
Anyway, all right then. Well, on that note, come see Tobias for all your cellular service needs at your next convention. And with that being said, guys, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.